Good evening, listener. I'm glad you're here. Settle in the way that feels easiest, shoulders soft, jaw unclenched, hands resting wherever they want to rest. Let the day be finished for now. You don't have to solve anything tonight. You only have to be carried gently by a small story and the quiet sounds inside it. If your thoughts wander, that's perfectly fine. Let them drift and come back whenever they're ready. I hope the next little while feels warm, safe, and unhurried, and that you can relax into it completely. Outside, the rain has been coming and going all afternoon, but now, in the evening, it seems to have decided to stay. It isn't loud, not a storm that demands attention, just a steady, patient rainfall, the kind that fills the air with a soft insistence. Each drop finds the window pane and taps it with a tiny, precise sound, like fingertips practicing a slow rhythm. Sometimes the rhythm smooths into a whispering sheet. Sometimes it separates again into individual beads of water that gather and slide downward, leaving clear trails through the fog of dampness. The glass holds the chill on the far side, and inside the room the warmth holds its ground, making a boundary you can feel in your skin without needing to think about it. The room by the window is a knitting room, but not in the sense of a place that is strictly for work. It is a room that has learned how to be calm. The walls wear quiet colors, creams, and soft grays, and the faintest suggestion of tan, so the lamplight can rest on them without glare. Along one side is a low shelf where yarn sits like a row of sleeping animals, balls and cakes wound in careful spirals, skeins gently twisted, all of them waiting in their own textures. Some are matte and sturdy. Some have a slight sheen that catches the light as if they were damp with moonlight, and some look like they have air trapped inside them. There is a basket with a linen lining, and the linen has that familiar softened stiffness from being washed many times, its weave visible if you look closely. Near the window stands a chair that has been claimed over time as the right chair. It is broad and patient, with arms that are smooth where hands have rested and moved away. A throw blanket lies over the back, folded in a way that suggests it was placed there without much thought, because it doesn't need ceremony. The blanket is wool, thick but not heavy, and it holds warmth in layers the way a good quiet holds comfort. Beside the chair is a small table, round and stable, with a coaster that has a faint ring from old cups of tea. And next to the table stands the floor lamp, a tall torquiere with a shade that is the color of oatmeal, its fabric slightly textured, the seam of it visible like a neat little line. The lamp is on now. Its light pools downward, not harsh, not white, but a honeyed amber that makes everything look kinder. Under it, the knitting needles glint softly when they move, catching a brief thread of light, and then letting it go. The lamp's warmth doesn't quite reach the window, so the glass remains cool and a little dim, a place where the night outside presses gently inward. The rain sound comes through the pane in a muffled way, softened and rounded, as if the window is holding it close and translating it into something that can be listened to without effort. The person in the chair, our main character, though tonight they don't need a name, has already changed into something comfortable. There are socks that hug the feet with a familiar elasticity, a sweater with sleeves that fall easily to the wrists, and soft trousers that don't pinch. Their hair, if it had been pinned up during the day, has been loosened. Their face carries that quiet neutrality that arrives after long hours of being on, when the muscles finally remember they're allowed to rest. They are in a calm mood, not exuberant, not sad, just steady, like water in a bowl that has stopped shaking. They pick up the yarn first, because that is the beginning of everything. It is a thick, lovely wool in an autumn color, something between rust and cinnamon, with tiny variations of shade that make it look alive. When you press it between finger and thumb, it gives slightly springy and resilient, and there is a faint lanolin scent that is not strong but honest, like clean sheep and fresh air filtered through grass. The fiber has a subtle halo, fine hairs that catch the lamplight at the edges, making the yarn look as if it is quietly glowing. Even before the first stitch, the yarn offers comfort simply by being what it is: warm, tactile, forgiving. The needles are wooden, smooth, and warm to the touch from use. They don't clack sharply. They make a softer sound, a gentle tick when they meet. The person positions the scarf in progress across their lap. It is already long enough to drape down one side of the chair and pool on the floor like a sleepy creature. The scarf's surface shows the patient repetition of stitches, rows that align like small, tidy waves. When the fabric is lifted, it is weight, but it is pliable, and it bends easily into curves. The stitches look like little interlocking V's, each one a tiny promise kept. It is the kind of knitting that doesn't rush, that doesn't try to impress anyone. It simply grows, one loop at a time, into something that will later wrap around a neck and hold warmth the way a hand holds another hand. In the background, a quiet audiobook is already playing. The device is set low, not to dominate the room, but to accompany it. The narrator's voice is calm and even, the kind of voice that knows how to take its time. The story being read is gentle, more about atmosphere than plot, and the words drift through the air like soft paper boats. Sometimes you catch a sentence, sometimes just the cadence. The person in the chair doesn't mind either way. Tonight isn't about grasping every detail. Tonight is about letting sound and sensation share the space, like rain and lamplight and wool. They begin again where they left off. The right needle slips into the next stitch with a practiced motion. The yarn wraps around. The loop is drawn through. The old stitch slides off. It is so familiar that it doesn't need conscious thought. Yet each movement still feels intentional. There is a pleasure in the smallness of it, the way the fingers know what to do, the way the yarn moves through the hand. The wool has a slight drag, not unpleasant, just enough to feel its presence. It whispers as it slides, a faint friction against skin, and that whisper pairs with the rain tapping at the glass. The two rhythms don't match exactly, but they don't need to. They coexist, one human and one weather, both steady. Outside the window, the street is blurred by water. The world looks softened, as if the rain has rubbed away sharp edges. A street lamp somewhere casts a pale reflection across the wet pavement, and it shivers when raindrops hit it. The branches of a tree sway gently, their last leaves clinging in small, dark shapes. Every now and then, a car passes, its tires making a quiet hiss on the road, and the light of its headlights stretches into long, smeared streaks through the wet air. The room doesn't react. The room remains itself, warm, woolen, and safe. The person's breathing slows without instruction. It happens as their hands continue. In and out, each breath a little longer than the one before. Their shoulders sink more fully into the chair, as if the chair is letting them know it has them. Their mind, which earlier may have been scattered across tasks and messages and small worries, starts to gather into the present. The scarf is present. The yarn is present. The lamplight is present. is present. This is enough. The audiobook turns a page in its own way. There's a soft shift in the narrator's voice, a new paragraph, a change of scene. The person notices a phrase that floats up clear and bright, then it drifts away again. They don't chase it. They simply keep knitting. The needles lift and dip, lift and dip, like a slow metronome. If you look closely, you can see the exact moment a stitch becomes part of the fabric. It is a small transformation. Loose loop to secure loop, potential to reality. The scarf grows by millimeters, then centimeters, and the growth is so gentle it can't be felt in the moment, only seen later when the person pauses and realizes how much longer it has become. A pause does come naturally when the person's hands begin to ask for it. Their fingers open and close once, as if stretching. They place a finger on the row they're in, a small marker of where to return, and set the knitting carefully in their lap. The wool holds its shape softly. The needles rest without rolling away. Then the person reaches toward the small table where the cup of tea has been waiting. The tea is in a mug that is thick-walled and comforting to hold. The mug is slightly imperfect, handmade, or at least made to look handmade, with a glaze that deepens in some places and thins in others. When the person wraps both hands around it, warmth moves into their palms. Tea itself is something autumnal, perhaps chamomile with a slice of apple, perhaps black tea with a bit of honey, perhaps rooibos with cinnamon. Whatever it is, it smells like comfort. Steam rises in thin, twisting ribbons, and if the person brings the mug closer, the steam touches their face lightly, like a warm breath. They sip slowly. The first sip is always a little hotter than expected, so they hold it in their mouth for a moment, then swallow. The warmth travels downward in a calm line, settling. Another sip, another. Between sips, the rain continues to tap the window, and the audiobook continues to murmur, and the lamp continues to pour its gentle light. Nothing demands speed. The entire room seems to be practicing the art of taking its time. When the person sets the mug back down, it makes a soft, contained sound against the coaster, wood, and ceramic, and a small impact cushioned by care. They pick up the scarf again, and the wool feels even softer now that their hands are warmed from the cup. The yarn slides a little more easily, and the movements return. Insert, wrap, pull through, slide off. The repetition is soothing in the way that waves are soothing, each one similar, each one slightly new. As the scarf lengthens, the fabric begins to show its own personality. The wool's slight variations in color create a subtle marled effect in places, a deeper rust here, a lighter cinnamon there. The stitches stack neatly, and the edges stay straight, the result of patient attention over many evenings. The person's thumb runs briefly along the edge, as if checking it by feel, and the edge feels like a tiny braided rope, firm, tidy, reassuring. The center of the scarf feels more plush, the stitches forming a thickness that will one day trap air and warmth. If you press your face into it, if you let yourself imagine it, you would feel softness, and that faint will scent, and perhaps the lingering aroma of tea, if it was near the fabric long enough. The rain outside shifts again. A gust of wind sends a new pattern across the window. A flurry of faster taps, then a long, sliding streak where water is pushed sideways before gravity takes over again. The sound becomes a little brighter for a moment, more energetic, and then it settles back down. The window holds the outside at a distance, but it still allows the rain's presence to be part of the room. It is like having a companion who doesn't speak, just breathes and moves quietly nearby. The person glances up at the glass. Their reflection is faint in the dark, a face softened by lamplight, eyes calm, hands moving. Behind the reflection is the night, and behind the night is the rest of the world, continuing on without needing them. There's a comfort in that, in realizing that nothing will fall apart if they slow down. The world can keep turning while they sit here and make something warm. The audiobook's narrator reaches a particularly quiet moment, perhaps describing a landscape, perhaps lingering on a memory, and the words align with the rain in a way that feels almost planned. The person's mind drifts, not into worry, but into a gentle daydream. They imagine the scarf finished, wrapped around their neck, the ends hanging down, the wool soft against the skin. They imagine stepping outside on a cold morning, the air crisp, the scarf immediately useful. They imagine giving the scarf to someone else, watching it be worn. But the imaginings are light and not urgent. They come and go like the steam from the tea. Knitting has a way of returning you to your body. The person notices how their fingers move, how the yarn passes over the index finger, how the tension is kept. They notice the slight pressure in the pads of their fingertips, subtle pull in the wrist when the needle turns. They notice how the scarf's weight changes as it grows, how it drapes differently across their lap, how it occasionally slips and needs to be gathered back. These are small sensations, but they are real, and they keep the person anchored. It is hard to be too far away in your thoughts when your hands are creating something you can touch. Another pause arrives, not because the person is tired, but because they feel like listening more closely. They set the knitting down again, not with reluctance, but with ease. They tilt their heads slightly, letting the audiobook fill a bit more of their attention. The narrator's voice is low, a steady river. The person hears the shape of the sentences, the gentle rise and fall. It doesn't matter what the story is exactly. What matters is the sound of someone speaking calmly, as if sitting nearby in a room full of lamplight and rain. As they listen, the rain becomes more noticeable. It isn't louder, but the person's attention has turned toward it, and so it feels closer. They can distinguish different kinds of drops. The lighter ones that make quick, small taps, and the heavier ones that hit the glass with a slightly deeper tone. They can hear when water gathers and then releases, sliding down in one smooth run. They can hear the faint, constant hiss of rain on leaves and pavement outside, a background layer like white noise, soothing and even. The person lets their eyelids lower slightly, not closing fully, just resting. In the lamplight, the room's details become more tender. The wood grain of the small table shows its lines, like rivers on a map. The yarn in the basket shows its twists and plies, little ropes within the rope. A pair of scissors lies nearby, small and sharp, but quiet, their metal dull from use. A tape measure is curled like a sleeping snake. There are stitch markers in a tiny dish, each one a bright little ring, the only vivid colors in the room. All these tools are calm. They exist to help, not to demand. Eventually, the person returns to the knitting again, because the hands want to move. They pick up the needles, find the place they left off, and continue. The scarf resumes its slow growth. The wool passes through the fingers. The needle tips meet and separate, meet and separate. The sound is a soft tick-tick, softened by the wooden material and by the room's fabric surfaces. The tick-tick slips in between the rain taps, and together they make a kind of lullaby composed of small sounds. The person's thoughts, now slower, start to notice things they might have missed earlier. slightly brighter at the center of the room and fades gently toward the corners, making the corners feel distant and safe. They notice that the air smells faintly of wool and tea, and perhaps a trace of the soap used to wash the throw blanket. They notice that the window has a slight draft at the bottom edge, cool enough to feel if you put a hand near it, not enough to disturb the warmth. They notice how comforting it is to be inside while the rain is outside, a simple contrast that the body understands deeply. As the evening continues, the audiobook reaches a natural stopping point. The narrator finishes a chapter or a section, and there's a brief pause in which the device offers a moment of silence before beginning again. The person takes that pause and uses it. They tap the device, stopping the book. The room becomes even quieter, and in that quiet, the rain steps forward as the main sound. The rain is steady now, a patient percussion. The person listens, letting it wash over them. Without the audiobook, the knitting sounds become clearer too. Each stitch has its own tiny noise. The whisper of wool sliding, the gentle click of needle tips, the soft thump when the scarf shifts on the person's lap. These sounds are small but satisfying. They are proof of motion without urgency, proof of progress without pressure. The person's body responds to them by relaxing more. Their breathing slows again. Their shoulders drop another fraction. Their face smooths. They pause for tea once more, because tea is part of the ritual, and rituals are how evenings become safe. The mug is still warm, though cooler than before. They sip. The tea tastes slightly different now, less sharp, more blended, as if the flavors have had time to settle together. The person holds the mug and looks at the rain. They watch a droplet gather at the top of the glass, swelling as more water joins it, then releasing and sliding down in a clean line. For a few seconds it moves quickly, then slows as it meets other trails, then speeds up again when it finds a clearer path. It is strangely hypnotic, the physics of water made visible, the simple truth of gravity at work. When they set the mug down again, they pick up the scarf and drape it more carefully. They notice how long it's become. They stretch it out a little, measuring by eye. It reaches from the chair to the floor and then some. The scarf has a quiet presence now, like a companion. It has absorbed hours of calm evenings, and it holds that calm in its fibers. The person imagines that when it's worn, that calm will be released, warming not only the body but the mood. They return to knitting, even more slowly now, not because they are tired, but because the slower pace feels good. Each stitch is given its own moment. The person watches the yarn loop, watches it become part of the fabric. They admire, without judgment, the small imperfections. A stitch slightly tighter here, a row that looks a bit denser there. These are not flaws, they are evidence of a human hand. The scarf doesn't need to be machine perfect to be perfect for its purpose. Its purpose is warmth, and it is already warm. Outside, the rain continues its steady work. It has been washing the streets clean, darkening the soil, feeding the roots of the tree by the window. The person imagines the smell outside, the earthy scent of wet leaves, the mineral smell of rain on stone. They don't need to go out and experience it directly tonight. It is enough to know it exists. The window allows them to be near it without being in it. The person is grateful for that. They are grateful for the simple architecture of shelter. The lamp's light remains constant, but the person becomes aware that it is later now. Time has moved, but gently, like a boat drifting downstream. The room has shifted into a deeper quiet. Even the street outside seems less active. Fewer cars pass. The tree branches move less. The world is settling. The person decides to stand for a moment, just to stretch. They set the needles down carefully, making sure the stitches are secure, and rise from the chair slowly. Their knees straighten with a soft sense of release. Their back stretches. They roll their shoulders once, not dramatically, just enough to remind the muscles that they can. They walk to the window and stand close enough to feel the coolness through the glass. The rain is right there, inches away, yet separate. They place a hand on the pane. It is cold, and the cold spreads into the palm, a sharp contrast to the warmth of the room. The person enjoys the contrast. It makes the warmth feel even more real. They look out. The night is dark, but the rain catches light in small flashes, and the wet street reflects. Somewhere in the distance, a light in an apartment window turns off. Another remains on. The world is full of small rooms like this one, each with its own quiet rituals, each with its own person winding down. The person feels less alone knowing that. They take a slow breath and let it out. Returning to the chair, they settle back into the blanket and pick up the scarf again. The wool feels welcoming, as if it has been waiting. The person begins to knit once more. The rhythm returns easily. The room seems to sigh content. The person's mind is now mostly quiet, and when thoughts appear, they are gentle ones, memories of warm drinks, plans that can wait until tomorrow, images of leaves falling slowly in daylight. As the scarf grows, the yarn ball becomes smaller. The person can feel it, even without looking, by the way the yarn tugs slightly more from the center. They glance down and see that the ball has changed shape, collapsing a bit, becoming looser. There's something satisfying about that too. The visible proof of time spent, of material transformed. The person reaches into the basket and feels another ball of yarn waiting, a backup, just in case. They don't need it yet, but it is comforting to know it is there. Abundance doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it is simply having what you need within reach. The rain's tempo shifts subtly again. For a few minutes it intensifies, tapping faster, as if excited. The person listens, amused in a quiet way. Then it relaxes back into its steady pattern. The person notices that their knitting tempo unconsciously follows it a little, slightly faster during the quickened rain, slightly slower when it calms. It's as if their hands are in conversation with the weather. The idea makes them feel connected, not separate, not locked away. They are sheltered, yes, but still part of the world's movement. The room's textures become a kind of landscape. The scarf's knitted ridges are like gentle hills. The blanket's weave is like a field of soft grass. The wooden needles are like smooth branches. The person's hands move across these textures as if traveling. Each time they pull a loop through, they are making another step in this small, indoor journey. It is a journey with no destination that needs to be reached tonight. The destination, in a sense, is the journey itself, the slowing down, the being here. At some point, the person realizes that their eyelids are heavy, not in a frustrating way, but in the natural way of a body that is ready for sleep. They don't force themselves to continue knitting. They allow the realization to settle. They knit a few more rows, just enough to feel a clean stopping place. Then they pause, count the stitches softly with their eyes, and decide that this is enough for tonight. The scarf can wait. The yarn can wait. The world can wait. They secure the working loop, making sure it won't unravel. They place the needles together neatly, parallel, and set them on the small table. They fold the scarf gently, not tightly, wool likes to breathe, and place it in the basket. The basket seems to accept it, cradling the growing fabric. The person covers it with the edge of the linen lining, as if tucking it in. It's a small act, almost playful, but also sincere. The scarf is something living in its own way, something in progress, and it deserves care. The person stands and turns off the lamp, but not immediately. They hesitate for a moment, enjoying the last seconds of lamplight. The shade glows softly, and the room is held in amber. The rain continues, faithful. Then the person clicks the switch. The change is gentle. Darkness doesn't crash in, it settles like a blanket. The window becomes a deeper mirror, reflecting only faint shapes. The room's edges blur. The rain remains audible, now the dominant presence, and it feels even more soothing in the dark. The person leaves the knitting room slowly, not hurrying. Their footsteps are quiet on the floor. They carry the lingering warmth of wool and tea with them, as if it has soaked into their skin. In the bedroom, or wherever they go to sleep, the rain is still there, a constant companion through the walls. The person gets into bed, and the sheets feel cool at first, then quickly warm. They adjust the blanket. They find a comfortable position. Their body remembers the chair's softness, the wool's texture, the rhythm of needles, the calm voice of the audiobook. Their mind, once scattered, is now gathered and settled. As they lie there, they can almost feel the scarf again, the gentle pull of yarn, the soft resistance of wool, the smoothness of wooden needles. They can almost see the lamplight pooling on the floor, turning the room into a small island of warmth. They can almost hear the tiny tick of knitting joining the reins, tapping in a slow duet. These sensations linger like a cozy scent on clothing. They are not exciting, not dramatic, but deeply comforting. The rain continues to fall outside, washing the night in steady sound. The person's breathing becomes the slowest rhythm in the room. In and out, in and out. Each exhale a little longer, each inhale a little softer. The day releases its grip completely now. The body sinks into the mattress. The mind loosens and drifts, like a leaf floating on water. And somewhere in the knitting room by the window, the scarf rests in its basket, paused mid-growth, patient and calm. The yarn waits without impatience. The wooden needles lie side by side. The lamp stands quietly in the corner, ready to glow again tomorrow night. The rain keeps tapping gently at the glass, steady and soothing, as if it's keeping watch so the whole house can sleep. Let your own thoughts become as the lamplight in your imagination dim into a warm blur. There is nothing you need to do now. Just rest and allow sleep to come the way it comes best, slowly,